Let's kick off the day and thank our sponsors and partners who helped make today possible. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Colorado Workforce Development Council. Lee Wheeler-Berliner, I see you over there. Thank you. Our platinum sponsors, Apprenticeship Colorado and Stand Together. Thank you so much. Our supporting and reception sponsors, Accenture and Slalom. Slalom table, Accenture. Thank you. And then our table sponsors, Community College of Aurora, Lowenbro, Rocky Mountain Workforce Development Association, and RK Industries. Thank you for all of you helping to put today on. I also want to thank our board members and partners in the room today who support our work year-round. And they truly are collaborative partners on issues such as workforce. If you're a board member of Colorado Business Roundtable, I'd ask you to just stand and be recognized for us today. Any board members in the room? Thank you very much. Part of the fun today is you're being invited to participate. We look forward to your feedback, especially on LinkedIn. Post some questions, your thoughts, and be sure to tag Colorado Business Roundtable. To thank you for posting, we are giving away again, because of our friends at Southwest Airlines, 2 round-trip tickets for anybody who likes to travel. So if you tag Colorado Business Roundtable in your LinkedIn post before close of business Friday, you'll be entered to win. And trust me, we do give away the tickets. We have several people who love winning those tickets each year. So thank you to Southwest Airlines. Is Lexi in the room? I don't know if I see Lexi, but appreciate you, Lexi with Southwest Airlines. All right. Colorado Business Roundtable brings together senior executives from academia, business, community, and government to examine challenges that face our state with a long-term global lens. And we advance practical, employer-informed solutions that strengthen Colorado's economy and quality of life. At the core of this work is grounded in a simple belief: business is a force for good. Employers are not simply participants in the workforce system, they are essential partners in shaping it. Businesses drive demand and skills, create pathways for opportunity, and help define what a strong and competitive economy looks like in practice. We believe a job is more than a paycheck. It provides dignity, opportunity, stability, and long-term prosperity. So our theme today is very fitting: future of work from data signals to strategy. Leaders today are inundated with workforce information. None of you necessarily need more information. Every week, even the Wall Street Journal this morning brings a new report, a new ranking, a new projection, a headline about AI, skills gaps, labor shortages, demographic shifts, or changing employer expectations. Over the next few hours, you'll hear from national data experts, but just as importantly, you'll hear from the executives in private business who are responding to those signals in real time. In our first session, you'll hear new research launched today at this event from the Burning Glass Institute on work-based learning growth opportunities, followed by a candid conversation from business leaders on where they see opportunities and where barriers still exist. Next, you'll hear from Justin with Gallup, who will walk us through research on what employers are actually saying about meaning and belonging, and why this is important for organizations to pay attention to. In session 3, we'll release the Colorado Business Roundtable Workforce Survey, analyzed in a very strong partnership with Accenture. I want to thank them for their work on this report, highlighting what employers across Colorado are seeing related to workforce transformation. Throughout today's conversation, we'll continue asking, how do we move from information to action? How do we turn workforce signals into strategy? The final session that'll close this afternoon will be a behind-the-curtain conversation with leaders from NVIDIA and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Colorado has the opportunity to continue building one of the most competitive workforce ecosystems in the country, and many of you have been a part of that, especially when employers, educators, workforce leaders, and policymakers remain aligned on what matters most. It's a full afternoon, so relax. We've got snacks, we've got coffee, we've got Diet Coke, which is, of course, my personal favorite. Feel free to take breaks when you need to, and we're going to close today with a reception where we'll have some wine and some additional food and the ability to really connect and partner. We're looking forward to an energetic day and the collaboration to follow. So thank you all for being here for Colorado Business Roundtable Future of Work. Next, I'd like to introduce Colorado Business Roundtable board member Dr. DeSanctis to the stage to help frame our thinking as we explore the intersection of data, strategy, and the future of work. Dr. Marilena DeSanctis is the chancellor of the community college system, leading 13 colleges and more than 35 locations that educate over 130,000 students. A former mechanical engineer with more than 26 years in K-12 and higher education, she is known for bridging industry and education to expand opportunity and economic mobility. Please welcome Dr. Marilena DeSanctis to the stage.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Buenas tardes. Debbie, thank you for your leadership of the Colorado Business Roundtable and for bringing together leaders who understand that talent is not a downstream issue. It is the strategy. And that's exactly why this conversation matters. Because Colorado doesn't have a talent shortage. We have a translation problem between what people do and how we recognize it. And we have a speed problem in how quickly education adapts to your workforce needs. Today, we have more labor market data, job posting data, and skills data than ever before. The real question is, are we using those signals to actually change how we build talent, or are we just getting better at describing the problem? My name is Dr. Marilena DeSanctis, and I serve as chancellor of the Colorado Community College System. Through our 13 colleges and more than 35 locations, we serve over 130,000 students each year and thousands of employers across Colorado. In many ways, the Colorado Community College System is Colorado's largest engine for workforce-connected learning. And from where we sit, the future of work requires fundamentally different relationship between education and industry. For too long, employers have been asked to advise education. You sit on advisory boards. You provide feedback. You offer internships. All of that matters. But it still leaves education in the driver's seat and employers reacting on the back end. What we are building now is different. Employers are not just advisors. You are co-creators and co-validators of learning. Here's what that means. If a student demonstrates a critical skill inside of your company and you validate that performance, we award college credit for it, not based on seat time, not based on hours in a classroom, based on demonstrated capability. In our emerging partnership with the Colorado Bankers Association, students won't just learn about lending or compliance in a classroom. The learning happens inside participating financial institutions. Traditional courses are replaced by structured, work-based experiences where skills are demonstrated and validated in real time. Students still graduate with a degree, but they also graduate with something far more powerful, a track record of proven performance. For employers, that changes the equation. You are no longer hiring based on a promise defined by a grade that somebody assigned for a class. You are hiring individuals you or another employer in your sector have already seen perform. In other words, we are moving from hiring based on promise to hiring based on proof. We are also building what we call the Colorado Talent Marketplace, because if data is going to drive strategy, then skills need to be visible, measurable, and usable in hiring decisions. This is about creating a system where employers can identify candidates based on verified capabilities, not just job titles or degrees, and where learners can move faster because prior learning and demonstrated skills actually count. So what does that mean for employers in this room? 3 things. Be a co-designer. Help define the competencies that matter in your industry. Be a co-validator. Help create structured workplace experiences where those skills can be demonstrated and verified, and be an early adopter. Hire based on demonstrated capability, not just degrees or years of experience. Let me close with this. The states that win in the future economy will not be the ones with the best data. They will be the ones that move the fastest, from signal to strategy to execution. And if we get this right, Colorado won't just compete, we will lead. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Erik Leiden of the Burning Glass Institute. Erik serves as Managing Director of Workforce Strategy, where he leads research and programs focused on talent mobility and data-driven workforce strategy. He partners with Fortune 100 companies, universities, and governments to help leaders translate labor market data into practical action. His work has helped shape national conversations about how we build more effective and inclusive talent systems. Please join me in welcoming Erik to the stage.
Thank you, Dr. DeSanctis, and thank you to the Colorado Business Roundtable for having us here today and partnering on some research that we're going to share. We're going to go from data to strategy. So I'm going to start with the data, and then we're going to get to some strategy conversations. And I'm going to move relatively quickly. Just know at the end, we're going to share a QR code. You can download the report that this is all based on because we want to move rapidly through this conversation. So to start, we want to talk about the work-based learning landscape and what we see here in Colorado. And the main headline here, Colorado's ahead of the curve. Colorado has a more mature work-based learning landscape than most of the country. More of a focus on paid work, more internships, more apprenticeships, more employer buy-in, and more partnership across the ecosystem. Colorado is a real leader in work-based learning. That progress has led to some real ambition that is very exciting and is going to be really challenging in the implementation stage to come. And so I want to talk first about the big three goal in Colorado. For those of you that aren't familiar, this is the state of Colorado's goal for all high school students to be on a career pipeline across 3 different measures. And the main one we're going to focus on today is everyone having access to a work-based learning opportunity as part of their high school education. That work-based learning opportunity can take different forms. It can take apprenticeship forms, it can be internships, it can be all sorts of other kind of class-based project learning, all with the idea of exposing people to real work-based learning opportunities to help them get jobs and help fill employer talent needs. This is really ambitious. This would represent a huge expansion in how much work-based learning is accessible to people. And what's gotten Colorado here won't get Colorado there. An expansion of existing strategies isn't going to be enough to fill the gap. Many of you employers in the room probably feel tapped out on internships already. You don't want to offer one more mechanical engineering internship. You don't want to offer one more production apprenticeship because you're already doing a lot. And so the idea of creating opportunity for all high school students is really ambitious. At the same time, work-based learning is huge for those on college pathways. And so we want to talk today about what we see and where we see opportunities for real expansion. And I want to start with a big stat on the high school front, which is for every high school graduate that we've observed over a period of 7 years, we've seen about one one internship posting accessible to high schoolers for every 27 graduates. That's disproportionate. That's really challenging and shows just the scale of the increase of access that's going to be needed to bridge this gap. And so let's dig into what we see. I want to start with the value proposition here. Why offer work-based learning? I'm sure many of you will agree with each of these value propositions here, but I want to get us all on the same page on what we're talking about here. So first, there are 3 different value drivers we've been able to observe as kind of big archetypes for why employers are offering work-based learning. One is the pipeline of talent, the conversion value. Being able to look at upcoming and soon to enter workforce entrants and say, who can we bring into the company? How can we help fill critical talent needs? This is something that I think is the most obvious value proposition for many of you. It's the way of finding new entry-level talent across many roles. There's also production value. Interns can get things done. Apprentices can get things done, and they can help create value for the company. In surveying we've done in focus groups, this tends to appear as the secondary value, but is still very real. Help get the job done. And then third is exposure. Getting the company out there, helping build the employer value proposition so that people are bought into it. so that people see, hey, this is a big part of how we're part of our community. We want people to know about jobs in HVAC. We want people to know about jobs in financial services, being able to get the brand out there. But if you dig deeper into value, there's a really robust base of research that shows not only is it good for companies in these kind of broad ways of creating access to talent, in conversion, in getting things done, the employees that come through these work-based learning entry paths, including internships, tend to have stronger outcomes for the company in ways that are real and measurable. We see better retention. Folks who enter the company through a work-based learning pathway stick around longer. Attrition is a very real cost that many of you are experiencing. And being able to find talent that's going to stick around for longer is another key internship value driver. Same with promotions. Many of you right now are probably exposed to a lot of AI conversations internally, where the entry level may be drying up. We need experienced workers. We need people who can leapfrog into the business analyst 3 position instead of coming in at the entry level. We see that folks coming in through work-based learning pathways are far more likely to get promoted down the road as well. They know the company. They know how things work. They've been through this kind of screening process and being able to kind of grind their teeth on these issues early. And so we're seeing them get more promoted, advancing into senior positions more quickly. For all of these reasons, work-based learning creates value for companies. But what we hear time and time again is that employers are tapped out. Employers, especially large employers, are already offering these opportunities. And so I want to get a bit at the landscape of where these opportunities lie today. And apologies for any latency, the clicker's taken a moment here. Today, the work-based learning landscape is dominated by internships in the state. There's a really robust base of apprenticeships, better than most states, but still the vast majority of opportunities are coming via internships. And those internships are focused on college pathways. The biggest providers of internships, the biggest hirers, are post-secondary institutions, in part because of federal work-study support. And the vast majority of the occupations, including 13 of the 15 top occupations where we see internships, are on paths that typically require a degree. Only 2 of the 15 are accessible to folks with only a high school degree. And so as we look at this landscape today of what's accessible, it's very much a college story. Part of that is great. Work-based learning is great for college students to find their careers. It creates very real value. But when that door is closed to folks at the high school level, it makes the big 3 goal. It makes this idea of the half of Coloradoans who never receive a 2- or 4-year degree, helping them into their careers, becomes a really challenging proposition. When we look at job postings, when we look at worker profiles, we see that very few are accessible to high school students. Better in Colorado than the rest of the country, but very, very few are accessible to folks without a degree. And so we want to think about how we can open that aperture more broadly. So as we think about pathways to scale here, there are 4 different dynamics that we want to talk about. And I think we just jumped forward about 12 slides with my last click. So let me go backwards here. Don't be intimidated by the number of slides remaining. As we think through these pathways to scale, I must be clicking the button too hard. I'm going to go a little off script here as we go. One is there's areas where internships and work-based learning is a little bit underrepresented today. So there are many opportunities with strong career mobility that offer real access for folks without a college degree that do not have robust internship pipelines today, many of which can help people have long-term positive wage trajectories. How can we expand in many of these occupations? Many healthcare support roles, many office supervisory and management roles do not have robust internship pathways today. Can we introduce internships where they don't exist occupationally? Can we introduce them where they don't exist in smaller and medium-sized businesses, where we see the vast, vast majority of internships coming from large employers, while the majority of employment does not? Can we expand more internship opportunities to small and medium-sized employers? It's costly to run internship and apprenticeship programs. It's challenging. Are there ways that we can help reduce those barriers for smaller employers to offer these programs? I'd be remiss to not mention, as a side note, geography. Rural areas have way lower rates of internships and apprenticeships than the major cities as a percentage of workers, as a percentage of students. Can we expand geographically as well? Next, can we expand the employer value proposition? Can we make people want more internships? That comes through 2 main things. Can we make sure that folks who go through internships and work-based learning opportunities are more productive when they hit the ground running in their job? And can we increase the conversion rates? Can we help employers retain more of their employees? I don't want to spend too long on this because I think this is the obvious straight play that we're all familiar with, but there's some real bright spots in Colorado for this. Deloitte, EY, Lockheed, many of the companies on this screen and not, already have really remarkable conversion rates from internships to full-time employees. Already a really large part of their talent base are coming in through these pathways. Being able to continue to invest in these pathways so that you're seeing it be the real way, the real pipeline for talent into the company can help make this a more valuable path for folks to get in. Next, I want to talk about new potential models for work-based learning. We need new innovation in this space to get there. Across the state, there's a lot of really cool organizations doing micro-internships, doing a lot of different dispersed models, doing class-based learning that are really important. And we think it's important to think about kind of the spectrum of what new models would require. On the x-axis here, we have how hard it is for employers to host these programs, the employer cost to service. And on the y-axis, we have the value that it creates for employers. What we've heard pretty universally is that apprenticeships are on the top right of this. They're challenging to run, and they're great. They're great for the participants, they're great for the companies, they're a great pipeline for talent, for the types of critical needs you have. At the bottom left-hand side, we have things more like job shadowing. They're lower lift, they also have way less long-term value to an employer from offering those programs. Can we build out more on this spectrum that employers are engaged with? Can we have more rotational internships? Can companies that are very seasonal use their off-season to get folks exposed to project-based work when they're not so busy, when there might be some spare capacity to run a program? Can we bring in models where small and medium-sized businesses can work together as a collective, one of which we'll hear about later today, to be able to kind of co-fund the management of an internship program and do it together, rather than everyone bearing the fixed cost of these programs up front? So these are new models that can be expanded. Last item on this front is this idea of recognizing existing work. Dr. DeSanctis mentioned that there's a lot happening that we don't recognize. Almost a quarter of Colorado high schoolers work, and we do not recognize that as work-based learning today. If you are working as a fast food counter worker, if you are working as a hotel lodging manager, if you're working as a lifeguard or a summer camp counselor, that's real work. It builds real life skills that are critical for us to recognize. Are there ways we can bring this into the classroom to help create structure around this learning? Recognize the skills folks are learning on the job. And are there ways that we can slant this existing work more toward customer service, interpersonal skills, teamwork, and less toward operating the fryer and less toward the technical execution parts of the job, to say this huge base of Colorado teens who are currently working, turning those into structured work-based learning and not just jobs. I want to leave us there. We have a report on this topic that we've developed in partnership with the Colorado Business Roundtable. I'm glad I briefed you all on the QR code. I see a lot of phones at the ready. Would love to get your feedback. Would love for you all to be able to learn more from our work on what we've seen in the scene. But for now, we want to bring in the employer voice to keep this conversation moving. And so I want to invite up our panel to please join us for a conversation here.
Good afternoon. I'm Isis Artze-Vega, also with the Burning Glass Institute, and I come to this work from a career in academia. You have met Erik, so please allow me to introduce our other two distinguished panelists. To my left, I have Danny Moore, founder, president, and CEO of DeNOVO Solutions, delivering advanced engineering and data-centric solutions to the Department of Defense and Intelligence community. A retired U.S. Navy Master Chief with 24 years in signals intelligence and national security, Danny has led DeNOVO as a recognized innovator in applied artificial intelligence and machine learning for national security missions. He also serves on the executive committee of the board of directors for Cobert. Sean Grubb is Global Technical Training Director at CoorsTek, with more than 28 years at the company, including over 20 years as a plant manager. He established the CoorsTek Academy and its Earn and Learn youth apprenticeship programs, and in 2026, CoorsTek was named the recipient of the Excellence in Manufacturing Training Award by the Society of Manufacturing Engineers. And so Erik provided a bit of our findings, and as both Erik and Debbie teed up, what we want to do now is hear from Colorado employers. And so to get us started, I'm going to invite Sean to get us started by telling us why work-based learning matters to CoorsTek, and some of the, we know you're doing a lot, so maybe a quick overview of some of the work you're already doing in this area.
Yeah, thank you, Isis. Great to be here. Happy to talk about some of the work that CoorsTek's done over the last few years. So CoorsTek, like most manufacturers, was struggling, had the same struggles in terms of the talent shortage. We would go through cycles in our markets go through hiring practices, recruiting, all of the usual antics when your business is ramping. And we're scrapping for the same small talent pool with the rest of the advanced manufacturers in the area. And it really was painful trying to fill those critical production roles. We knew we had to do something a little bit different than previous cycles. So in August of 2021, we opened the CoorsTek Academy. And the Academy was originally designed around new hire orientation for these folks we're bringing in. We set up a little different onboarding program in that we would bring these individuals to fill production roles into a talent pool. We would teach them technical skills during the day, during the mornings, and then tour them through the hiring plants in the afternoon. It'd give them an opportunity to look at the jobs, ask questions of those that work in the area, the supervisors in the area and their expectations. And at the end of that first week, it was almost like an NFL draft. We would select the individuals based on their feedback, based on their competencies and work history, and place them into job shadow roles for that second week. They may try out 1, 2, or 3 different jobs to make sure we had best fit. And at the end of the second week, we would give them an offer letter for permanent placement. So we did that for about a year and a half, worked very well. We filled all our critical production roles, and we reduced attrition in those critical roles by about 15% over that year and a half. So it was a pretty successful program. Since then, after that, everything kind of normalized. We went back to kind of normal hiring practices, if you will. And it allowed us at the Academy to move into the next phase, which was how do we build out a world-class academy that'll support a development of all of our employees, not just new hires. And so we started working on programs around technical training and soft skill training, leadership training, things that would help not just the employees on the floor, but their supervisors as well. And then we happened on an opportunity for a grant, Opportunity Now. It was the first time we ever had applied for a grant, and sure enough, we got it. So thank you, Misty and Eve and team. But then panic set in, right? Because the real work needed to begin there. But what that did for us was introduce us to this ecosystem, this workforce development ecosystem that exists out there. You guys many of you have lived in it. I'm new to it. But it's just been fantastic. And quickly, those fears resided when we came across companies like CareerWise that could help us set up youth apprenticeship programs that have had that experience and done that before. We came across Ben Gehrig and Colorado Succeeds, right, that helped us organize a manufacturing alliance. We have over 21 companies that participate in developing curricula for this training center that we've built with this money from OEDIT. We sent out surveys to local manufacturers to see who might be interested in participating in this and got over 60 responses back. So we know we've touched on something really important in the community, and it's gone from, you know, kind of fear and panic to motivation and energy, and it's just so fulfilling, the work that we get to do. So now we've got youth apprenticeships around CNC. We're starting a maintenance tech apprenticeship this summer. We've got workforce development programs for our employees, for our partners in industry. And now we have at Red Rocks Community College at Denver, other educational partners that are participating, and it really has gained a lot of momentum. And just getting started really was the biggest step. So we're really excited about the work that's occurred so far, and looking forward to what the future holds.
Thanks so much, Sean. And Danny, what about DeNOVO?
So I think we're in a little bit different situation. That is a fantastic program. Because our work is aerospace and defense, and because we're competitive with the larger companies, unfortunately, when you're competing in our space, no one cares about you being small or medium. They just care about the value you deliver. And so what we've had to do is really go forward. We used to look at interns at their junior year, their senior year at college. Well, now we're looking at them at their freshman year because it's so competitive. And now this program is looking at how do we go back into high school. And I'm really interested in this because we're almost returning to our roots, right? We're returning to a place where we used to be, where we train at a high school level to give workplace skills to support the industry or the environment in that state. And I think we need to return to that because there's value in that. The last time I was here, I talked about how we're leaving a large percentage of the population behind, and I'm interested to talk about that as well, that we need to introduce some of these new technologies to kids who don't even know they exist. And that's how we advance ourselves in workplace learning, because we first have to interest them in it before we can actually train them in it. And so I'm really excited about this study. And if you haven't seen the study, I would encourage you to download it. It's comprehensive. It provides a lot of great details and a lot of great ideas. So thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you both. I'm looking at the time, and what we really want to hear is your input and your responses to our recommendations, right? We analyzed the data, both in Colorado and what's happening nationally, and brought forth the recommendations that Erik described, right? Going into places where Colorado says we need employees, but there are no pathways, those launchpad jobs, and exploring new models. So let's go back to Sean for this one. When you hear, and in your case, read about the recommendations, what's resonating for you, and what's it going to take?
Well, I think one thing that was new for us is really working with youth, going back into like high school age. Initially, we were a little reluctant being in manufacturing, and you know what we do inherently is dangerous out there with all the equipment. But after we got to thinking about it and these recruiting pipelines, it just made real sense. With the youth apprenticeship programs, it's amazing the energy an 18-year-old brings to the workplace. I had forgotten, my kids are much older now, but you know, seeing these kids come in and really flourish in advanced manufacturing, I think if you're intentional about how you introduce them to the floor and introduce them to the manufacturing processes, it helps ease some of that stress on them as well. We've got a student in our youth apprentice first cohort that is she was a real introvert in her class, and we were almost hesitant to take her into the program, knowing how introverted she was and quiet. Was she really going to flourish on the floor? But she's been fantastic in that role. She's really taken off. In fact, she went back to her high school and talked about her experience as an apprenticeship. And just knowing that these programs can change lives and touch people in that way, it's so fulfilling. And so it's allowed us to continue to kind of expand our thoughts around how we grow those programs, not just with youth apprenticeship, but now we're talking about looking at pre-apprenticeship programs and getting even younger into the schools and advertising career paths and advanced manufacturing and who's CoorsTek is and our alliance partners as well. So I think just getting started and experiencing what these programs can bring, not just to the individuals, but to you as an employer, has been way beyond what we dreamed of to begin with.
Thank you so much. Sean touched on something that we heard from Colorado employers and that the research is starting to capture, but really not it's hard to quantify, which is there are non-quantifiable benefits to having high school students around, right? The energy, the optimism, the excitement, not just the exposure and the more traditional metrics of ROI. So thank you for sharing some of that with us. Danny, what about you? When you think about the new models or going into the high school students or expansion in smaller or medium-sized businesses, what from there seems like it has real potential for Colorado?
I think for me, it's the new model, right? We need to look at things in a different way, or an old way. There was a time, and maybe I'm dating myself, where you got that last period in high school, and you got credit for going to work for that, whether you worked at a shop or you worked at an office. We need to return to that so that people can get familiar with that. The other thing we need to do is we really need to figure out a way to introduce some of these young students to the idea of what their career could be. We can no longer afford to wait until they're in post-secondary education and then decide what their careers are going to be. AI is moving us so fast. The digital age is already surpassed. And I hate to tell you, but quantum is right behind it. And it's going to transform how we learn and how we do business. So getting kids that are interested in these careers and understanding these technologies in the 9th grade or the 10th grade, that's what we need. And I think those new models, it gives credit to the students, but also informs them about the possibilities that are out there. So I'm really excited about that recommendation.
Thank you. You spoke to something that I've heard Erik speak to. And so, Erik, I'm going to invite you to jump in on the imperative for work-based learning today and what the labor market looks like and looks like it's going to continue to look like in the future.
Yeah, I mean, what we're hearing pretty universally from employers is that they are not looking for generalist entry-level talent with no context, especially in roles that have a large share of their work via a computer, via something that AI is going to be able to do. We have seen that hiring dry up. The most stark example of this is that the unemployment rate for recent college graduates from a 4-year program is, for the first time that we've seen ever, higher than the unemployment rate for recent associate's degree graduates. They're going to more school and having higher exposure to unemployment risk. And so as we see entry-level pipelines dry up, as we see employers demanding, I want somebody who understands the industry, who understands the dynamic, who understands that the busy season for helium products to be distributed via welding companies is based around kind of the Halloween to Valentine's Day loop, and that the rest of the year is the slow season. That's a silly example from the business I grew up in. But all of these things, being able to jump past that blank slate level, being able to create value beyond what a large language model can do, we're hearing a ton of that. Work-based learning, whether that's project-based learning in school, whether that's internships, apprenticeships, are the way to leapfrog that. In skilled trades, I think that the impetus is greater than ever before because of the increased demand and the shortage of talent in skilled trades. In pretty much every other role that involves some degree of computerization, it's the threat of AI, eroding entry-level pathways, and the demand of employers to say, I want talent that can jump to the 2nd, 3rd year level quickly. I think work-based learning is how you have to get them there.
Can I add to that? I think that's so important because we don't hire engineers who don't understand AI. People who don't understand and apply AI don't stay with the company. That's where we're at now, and we're not the only employer who does that because that advancement is so critical. So you're absolutely right. We want people to come in and understand that technology and be able to immediately contribute to the team. So that's a very good point.
I'm going to kind of combine 2 questions as we wrap up, which is to say the original question is, what advice would you give employers, especially those who haven't taken that first step of offering anything on the work-based learning continuum? But I want to open it up because we recognize that it's not only on employers, that many other constituent groups, including many others represented in this room, have a role to play if Colorado is going to attain its truly ambitious goals. So advice that you have for employers and or the help that employers are going to need from others to make the ambitions a reality. Sean, you want to get us started?
Sure, yeah. I think the first thing is just starting, right? Taking the first step. We, like most companies that haven't taken this journey, were a little reluctant, a little hesitant. You think about what you want the program to be, and you think about all the work and details that go into it, and you're really trying to strive to build a perfect program. And it just doesn't happen that way. You just have to get started and then continue to build on it from there. And then secondly, I just know that there is an ecosystem of intermediaries and other companies that are out there ready to help you. That's something that I didn't realize, taking that first step. So it really is kind of a low-risk proposition when you think about recruiting pipelines from schools. We work with Jeffco and DPS and career counselors as well. But having kids come out, youth come out, and seeing the operation, and then determining whether this is for me or not, that really is kind of a low-risk proposition, right? And you find out fairly quickly, either it's not for everyone, and if it's not for them, that's fine. You hadn't really invested that much at that point. So I would say, just getting started and taking that first step, making that commitment to bring youth in and have work with intermediaries and creating a pipeline, there's not much risk or cost associated to taking that step.
Yeah, I would say a lot of the same, but I would also say that on the academia side, I think it's important to kind of allow business to come in to the schools to talk about what they do, to answer those questions firsthand to the students about what is a software engineer, what is a machine learning engineer, how does this apply? We have students that are living in what I think the greatest times ever. We're back in space in a big way. We're moving toward the moon in a great way. We have this convergence that's going on between the digital transformation age, the AI age, and now quantum behind it. It's going to be transformative to everything we do and how we live. So I think that would be number one. And then number two, I think for business, we have to stay open to moving that starting block back toward the earlier years. Understanding that we can't expect them to understand and mature if we're not meeting them where they're at and bringing them along. And I think that's what we have to do. It's risky, but I think the reward is greater than the risk.
Thank you both. Eric, from your vantage point, any last words of advice for the group?
Yeah, actually, I would love to do a quick poll of the room to help frame this up. If you can raise your hand, if you are currently in a job that was not at all on your radar when you were in high school. Yeah, it's the vast majority of folks here. And just to follow that up, raise your hand if you worked while you were in high school. And keep your hand up if you learned something in that role that is helpful on your job today. Great, you can put your hands down. That's super helpful. And there's two themes that I want to pull from that. One is that we need to broaden our aperture. We need to broaden our aperture in terms of where we think work is and where we think opportunities lie to potentially expand work-based learning opportunities, to think about new roles, new models. And the other is that we need to recognize the work that is happening. So we need to look at what people are doing in their jobs today, whether it's a high school worker, in food service, in retail, in a lot of the jobs that are disproportionately held by teens. And we need to say there are real things that they're learning on that job that are valuable in the workplace. Even if it means that they don't know how to use the specific project management software we use within our company yet, there is really valuable learning. Employers should recognize that in hiring. I think employers do a better job of that than the state government and then a lot of other parties do in recognizing that as real learning. And I think that we need to broaden the aperture, recognize real work-based learning where it's happening.
I want to end by echoing a comment that Erik shared at the start of his presentation, which is we had the great honor of not only pulling Colorado data and examining the kind of quantitative evidence of the work-based learning ecosystem and history, but also all kinds of other research and talked to many of you, and we really truly were inspired and impressed. As the Chancellor shared, there's an opportunity here for Colorado to continue leading, and I very much look forward to seeing what you do next. Please join me in thanking our panelists. And now, via some videos, you will hear additional perspectives from higher education. Thank you so much.